culture and business functions. They really do play a major role in the cross-pollination of the two of them together. If you look at some of the different cultures, just here in Orange County, California, we have multiple different cultures at play here on a regular basis, and they interact with each other. Anywhere from the Far East to the Near East to Europe to North and South America, you have a massive number of people from different cultures, and there's different ways to deal with different parts, especially things like marketing. Marketing, if you don't have marketing, then you're expecting people to stumble across your product. Well, your goal of marketing is to make sure that they don't stumble, but they find your product on purpose. Pay attention to the cultural issues that are involved. Pay attention to things like the product design, advertising, and prices. You have to pay attention to all of them. Here's an example of some of Domino, how they've adapted to different cultures across the entire planet. In Japan, they have a sukiyaki topping with beef with yolk sauce and onions. I doubt that would do well here in the United States, but it sure does well over there because they list it as #1 over here. Shrimp mayonnaise pizza. That actually sounds pretty interesting. Mayo chaga. I'm not certain quite what that is, except for the fact that a pork and potato sausage, okay. Crab gratin, I'd like to try that one. Basil eggplant, okay, and you go right down to a whole line, especially that seafood special. That would probably be one of my favorites. I would enjoy dining in Japan, except for the fact that when you look at Japan, almost every culture, if they're this nimble to have these different toppings in Japan, I'll bet they have different kind of toppings in almost every single country in Europe as well. It's called paying attention to your marketplace and marketing appropriately. Over at McDonald's in Malaysia, a Berber Ayam McD, chicken strips and porridge with onions, ginger, and shallots. The McQueso burger, I've had one of these. They're pretty good. Egypt, I've had one of these too. Minced meat patty with onion. Japan, teratama, you have all these different aspects. In Germany, if you want beer with your burger, it's not a problem. You can earn it or order that in one of the stores. If you want wine with your burger, you can get that in France. Israel, they have kosher kitchens. They actually have 2 different kitchens operating, one for regular, one for kosher. At one time I went to visit in Egypt for a long period of time, and I totally enjoyed it, and I was totally shocked in Cairo. 2 of the hot spots, if you wanted to take a date to anywhere, was actually American restaurants. One was a Pizza Hut and one was a KFC. I kid you not, this is over 20 years ago, but I truly loved it. The aspect that I saw a limousine get up and it looked like the equivalent of an Egyptian high school prom as everybody got out, like 6 people got out and they went into the normal KFC all dressed up to the nines. It was fabulous. It's wonderful. It's kind of interesting seeing cultural differences, especially when cultures cross-pollinate in a different way like that. Braniff Airlines, they had a slogan, fly in leather, except in Spanish it came across as fly naked. That could certainly make an interesting airplane flight. Yellow Pages, they ran a poster for bibimbap, a rice dish with a picture of noodles, and they got in major trouble in the process. Nike, the women's sports gear, had a traditional Samoan tattoo, which was reserved for men. Okay, they were selling it for women. Pringles made one of the world's great blunders when it promoted a bacon-flavored chip for Ramadan. Ramadan is a Muslim tradition, and of course the Muslim tradition does not include bacon whatsoever. It was one of the dumbest things that's happened in Pringles history, probably go down as the worst. You'll see all kinds of different things out there. Harley Davidson, one of the hottest selling cigarettes out there is Harley Davidson cigarettes. I kind of thought Harley Davidson made motorcycles, but they make cigarettes. No, they don't. They have a licensing agreement with an American company to sell stuff in Japan. So that said, because the Japanese, they like a lot of different American products, including anything that connotates the Wild West, the open prairie, because you don't have much of that in Japan. So that being said, it's interesting how things can happen. Traveling abroad, be careful in Turkey. Don't cross your arms when you're facing somebody. It's rude. Never shake anybody's hand with the left hand in the Middle East. Them as fighting words. You do not want to do that. It's a huge insult. In India, don't pat anybody's head. That's where they keep their soul. And in Brazil, Don't start on time, because punctuality isn't important to their culture. As a matter of fact, if you show up right on time, it might be considered a matter of insult. Be careful also about discussing business over lunch. You discuss business at the end of lunch, so it just depends what culture that you're in. But before you go to another country, especially if it's on business, take the time out to do research as to what you're going into and what is good and what will sit down and flip somebody out. Human resources. How do you sit down and evaluate somebody from a different culture and apply an American standard to them? What is a work ethic? What are the expectations there? A lot of the world has somewhat stronger work ethics than some of the ones we have here. Okay, how is authority understood? That's a big deal. If you go to Japan, it's pretty common that the oldest person in the room is the one that's always asked to speak first because of the age aspect of it. Here in the United States, it's a matter of whoever can blather out first. Pay attention to all those dynamics, and you're better off being quiet for the first couple of weeks if you're stationed into another country, and especially with a permanent transfer. Production procurement. You have different aspects about the influence of new production methods. Sometimes pay attention as to what is, if you go into a plant or go into a new business in another country, be careful about making rapid changes until you understand the culture and make certain that you implement the changes. So be careful about that aspect. Ask questions. Find out long-term process what the norms of that structure is. Accounting and finance controls. Normally, numbers dictate exactly what is up, but there might be different kind of controls that are out there, and a tight control could say that I don't trust you. And sometimes you simply don't, but be careful about making that statement, whether it's verbally or on paper in the process. Leadership styles, they're very different. There's some nonverbal communications that here in the United States is highly offensive, but in other countries is totally fine, and vice versa in the process. So be careful about the aspect of steepling. This is insulting in the United States, and a lot of people don't know how they respond, but in South America, it's totally fine. So pay attention to any words from nonverbal communication to verbal communication. Pay attention to who talks first, and are they the most senior person by age or the most senior person by rank? Be careful on that aspect of it. What are the different types of relationships in the process as to what is leadership? Is the leadership model paternalistic? Is it a parent to child? Is that how it works? Or what if you rise through the ranks? What about having family? If your family owns the business, is it automatically assumed you give that person deferential? If it's a young person that's much younger than you, but it's part of the family name, pay attention to the communication style and also how conflict is dealt with. Sometimes the method in each aspect of the operations can be different from your home office model. The interpretation of different models, if you don't pay attention to them, make certain that you don't sit down and offend somebody because it appears you don't trust them. Communication and leadership styles, they can vary dramatically based upon cultural norms. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. It all means something. Take care.